Okay, number 5, the last one, and perhaps the trickiest one to sort of get down, really. You could say it's not really a beginner thing. However, it's something that you want to try and get your head around or get your fingers around as soon as possible, really. And that is vibrato. So I lump in bends and vibrato as kind of the same thing. All of vibrato is basically just the same motion, pretty much, to me anyway, as the bend, just a lot smaller. So if we were going to do it with our third finger, and we took that same 7th fret of the G, what I would do, I like to do wrist vibrato primarily, which is this. And that is the same sort of motion. The fingers have tension in them, and I'm just sort of going like this. The difference between this and this, it's basically the same thing, it's just smaller. If you can get the bend thing down, you should be able to get the vibrato thing down. Same thing, thumb over the top, and I'm doing this. What I would try and steer people away from, and again, you know, whatever, it's personal preference. If it works for you, it works for you. But I see people doing this when it's just the finger, like doing that. Now, that doesn't seem very controlled to me. I feel like the margin for error there is like massive. I feel like it's really hard to get it to be stable, and it's probably more effort to do it like that than it is with the wrist. Same thing, thumb, bit of tension in the fingers. Yeah, if I was going to do put vibrato on a note where I've landed on my third finger, usually vibrato is on longer notes, so I've got time to kind of get another finger behind and just sort of help. So when it comes to different fingers, it's still the same motion. So if you did it on your first finger, and we did the 5th fret of the G, same thing. The first finger is going to plant itself here, 5th fret of the G. And then if you can lock this first finger, and that becomes like a lever then against your thumb like this. So the motion of this is going down like that. If you can get your thumb there and then get tension in the finger, and you can go like this. So I'm basically just pulling and turning my hand that way slightly. Only slight. You can probably see here at the back of the hand, it's just going that way a little bit. If you can do that, doesn't even have to be in tune, you can just get that motion. Then that could very easily turn into like that, and I can get more extreme. But it's the same motion. So on the second finger. Like that. So there's a bit of playing, just kind of doing it on different fingers. If I was gonna use my little finger, because the little finger's quite weak, again, I'll probably get another finger involved, maybe the third finger behind it, just to help with that whole hand kind of motion. There's different types of vibrato. I mainly do what people would call like wrist, or like sort of diagonal vibrato, as opposed to horizontal vibrato, which is a bit more where you're pulling the string left and right, which is quite good for chords. That's a slightly different thing. We won't worry too much about that for today, but as opposed to that one, or the vertical vibrato, which is kind of more the Clapton thing. I don't really do that one too much either, because a lot of guys that do it, they will take the thumb off the back of the neck, and for me that's like, you know, let it go of a banister on a very big set of stairs. It just feels like it's not going to end well. So, which is more that one. That kind of thing. I'm not really into that one, but check that out if you're into that sort of thing. The main thing you want to think about in order for it to sound decent is it being very regular in width and speed. And you can change the width and you can change the speed, but ideally those two things want to be regular. So what you don't want is this, where it's kind of fast and slow and it's kind of wide and then not wide. It just sounds like a dying wasp. You know what I mean? You don't want that. You want to pick, imagine the string is a line. Well, it is a line, but imagine that, you know, in visual aids corporate world, it's aligned. And then you're going to kind of go this way, which will be pushing it up. And then underneath, the same amount. So you're kind of going to oscillate around that line and keep it regular. Like that. Almost think of it like it's to a pulse. So da, 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 da. And you can go faster. Or I can go slower depending on what's going on in the music. Obviously, if you've got some sort of slower ballad, you can get away with it. But if it's something that's like, and you come in with, it can work and it's a choice. But I would probably would be more inclined to go. Bit more subtle. So that's a tip. Think about the context that you're playing it in. Make sure everything is regular, the width and the speed. Again, you can alter it. The last thing would be when to do it. So what notes to put it on. Most of the time it's going to be on a long note because the note is there long enough to have earned vibrato, if that makes sense. You've got a... and the note's there for quite some time, then, put vibrato on it. You always want to be sure, if a note's not there long enough, sometimes there's not time to put vibrato on the note. And what that will do is it'll just sound a bit kind of insecure and a bit unsure. Like if, say I've got a line that goes, so I've got 3 short notes, or shortish, and then one long note. If I try and put vibrato on, say this one, there's not enough time really. Works in a way, but there's kind of not enough time. And what can happen is, if you try and put it on notes that are too short, it can really throw you because there is physical motion happening to get the note and then to go to the next note. Might trip you up. And the other thing is, what might happen is you might just end up leaning on the string rather than actually doing vibrato because there's not enough time. And you get this. You see what I mean? There's not enough time, so you end up sort of pulling it out of tune and not wiggling it enough for it to be perceived as vibrato. And then all of a sudden, everything sounds like... it's a bit much. So that's another big thing, actually. Try not to lean too much on your notes while you're doing this. Again, you're taking a note that's here, the line, remember the line, and then wiggling out of tune. These two sides are technically out of tune. If you ever listen to guitar vibrato or vocal vibrato and you slow, go on YouTube and slow it down, it sounds like nightmare fuel. It's just like, it's, because they're wavering just a little bit around a note. So make sure that you are in and around that initial pitch and it's equal on either side. Like that. If you lean too much, you're basically wavering a note that's not in tune. So that is same kind of hand position as bending. Everything's kind of involved. It's not just the fingers. Play around with making sure that it is even. So even in width and in speed. Think about when you're doing it. Think about the context of the music. Obviously, it's all choices. It's all creative choices. But if the music is of a certain tempo, then maybe try and sync up your vibrato to that, or do some sort of rhythmic subdivision of that. I think that'll be it for vibrato. It's a lifetime thing, and it's something you have to be thinking about at all times. It comes under the sort of, I guess, the articulation umbrella, which does sound like a product on eBay. The articulation umbrella. Anything involving articulation is something you need to be thinking about at all times. Same thing with bends. You can't sleep on your bends or vibrato, because if they're the quickest thing that will make you sound like you don't know what you're doing, or will ruin a take or a recording. That's 5 things, 5 beginner roadblocks. If you made it this far, leave a comment saying articulation umbrella, I guess. And I'll see you on another one. Cheers.